documents are. So if you go to vanderbloemen.com, you go right here to the middle of our homepage and you'll see churchcovid19.com, schoolcovid19.com. You'll click on either one of those, take you to the same place. You'll see lovely Holly Tate looking right at you, and you go right below that and you'll scroll down and you will see right here, we're going to talk about this. This is the updated PPP loan forgiveness spreadsheet. Okay. We have an example, but then you have my slides. So click on that and that's going to take you to these slides, and you're going to go to slide 22. Oh, sorry. I don't know what I've done. I just hit something. There we go. You're going to go to slide 22, and that's going to take you to the easy form. So we're going to focus heavily right now on this easy form. And the reason why is because I believe, because just what the deputy director just said, I believe that many Christian schools and churches are going to be able to check the box that you have been unable to return to business activity as it was February 15th. And the big reason is if you're a church, you haven't been able to or had interrupted your church services, your in-person church services. And if you're a Christian school, you close for the rest of the year. So like you can definitely check this box. And so I want to be very clear. And so what you're going to find is this form is truly easy. And so let's just go through it real quick. Okay. There's an instruction page. First of all, the easy form is 2 pages, like front and back. It's so easy. All right. But then there is an additional thing that you can download that we have on our website that is the instructions to the easy form. And so you want to download that. And the first thing that you're going to see in those instructions is it's going to say, do you qualify for using the easy form? And you have to meet one of these categories right here. And I've got them outlined. And basically all I did was take that instruction page and I put it on these spreadsheets. And so number 1 is if you're self-employed. Okay. Number 2 and number 3 are both the same requirements at the beginning, which is you can't have reduced anyone's salary by more than 25%. That's the big thing. And you can't have paid anybody annualized more than 100,000. Okay. But the difference is, the difference is if in the second item here is if you didn't reduce the number of employees. Okay. So you had no reduction in employees. So your FTEs stayed the exact same prior to COVID-19 as it was during COVID-19 or during your covered period. Okay. So that's number 2. And number 3, which many of you all will fall into this category. 1, you didn't reduce anybody's pay by more than 25%. And 2, this whole thing, borrower was unable to operate during the covered period at the same level of business activity as before February 15th because of Health and Human Services, Director of CDC, or OSHA guidelines. So you got to be able to use this, the easy form. And there is a new forgiveness form that's not easy. So the uneasy form. So to use the easy form, you got to do one of these 3. To use the uneasy form, which Rene will help you out because she's smarter than I am, and you'll need her help. We'll talk about that later. So you're going to go, and this is the easy form. You're going to love this. It's long, like 5 slides. It's like amazing. All right. So you're just filling out the same information you filled out on your application. All right. You're filling out, and this big thing here is the SBA loan number, not your lender loan number. So there's 2 different categories that you fill in there. Your idle advance, and we just talked about the idle advance, your idle application number. Okay, the same information that we had before on your covered period. This time you're going to either call out if it's a 24 week covered period or an 8-week covered period. Big thing here is you can do the alternative covered period and use the 24 week. Okay, so you can use the alternative covered period if you're using the 24 week. All right, so this is amazing. Okay, this is like amazing. All right, these is all the information you got to fill out on the easy form. All right, check this out. Payroll costs. All right, business mortgage interest, rent, utilities. Okay, like everybody can, I can fill this form out. All right. All right, then all I'm doing is I'm adding. Okay, so I can definitely add those four numbers together. All right, it's called summation. I can do that. I remember that. Then you put in your loan amount. So your number 5 is the amount of money that you spent, and hopefully it's going to equal line number 6, which is your PPP loan amount. And then you're going to do what's your payroll costs at 60%. Okay, and then your forgiveness amount. Okay. So hopefully your forgiveness amount is going to be the same amount as your PPP loan amount. All right. By the way, that be the end of the whole. That's the easy form. Sutton can fill out the easy form. It's amazing. All right. So just wanted to highlight that and why now you might be able to use the easy form. Now, the back side of the easy form. So we just went through the front side of the easy form. The back side of the easy form has a whole bunch of certifications. And I have basically summarized these certifications that you're certifying. None of these are new to you. And all of these are just making sure that you are aware, for example, that payroll cost is at least 60%. If we will go back about a month, there was a big fight around and a big discussion around this whole, you had to spend 75% of your loan amount. Now that number has been reduced. And it is clear in the certification here that you must spend at least. This is not a situation to where you could spend 50% of your PPP loan amount and just receive reduction in your PPP, in your forgiveness. This is not. When you're using the easy form, you have to say that you have spent at least 60% of your payroll cost on, or 60% of your PPP loan amount on payroll costs. So this is a big deal. That's why I highlighted it. Everything else is basically things that we've all discussed for the last 2 months. So again, this is the certification that's basically saying that you are able to certify. We've just gone over this with the SBA director. And so that is basically walking you through the easy form. And you're telling yourself, you're asking yourself, wow, that's so easy. And I'm telling you, it's amazing. Like, this is awesome. And so many Christian schools and so many Christian churches are able to use this form, and it's like amazing. Now, if you are a nonprofit, if you are a business like us that has been adversely affected, then you're going to have to look at it from your perspective. Okay. But there's nothing that's in this form that says you have to prove that. It does say that the SBA can come back and ask you to prove how you had some type of, were unable to restore back your business activity to pre-COVID-19 days, which is pre-February 15th days. So Holly, I just kind of run through that as quick as possible. We still got 20 minutes. So my hope is now is for Rene to kind of take over, and Rene, you to kind of walk through the uneasy form that I can't fill out. But for all the people that actually have to do that because their business was not affected or their organization was not affected and they can't fill out the easy form, they still need to fill out the non-easy form.
Got it. So I'm going to share my screen so we can look at a few of the updates that we've done. Okay, everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, so a couple of changes that we've had is, one, the max. If you choose the 24-week period, the max cash compensation is going to be $46,154 per employee. If you use the 8-week, it's the $15,385. So that's a change that is on the spreadsheet. That's the only change on this sheet. Safe harbor, this really hasn't changed at all. It's the exact same language. So nothing was affected on page 3 or sheet 3. And then sheet 4, everything's still the same. Nothing changed on it. Sheet 5 did change. And now we have these check boxes in here. And it's walking through the different safe harbors that that the new revision that came out incorporates into the sheet. And it says, if you satisfy any of the following 3 criteria, check the appropriate box and skip lines 11, 12, and 13 and enter 11 and 12 and enter 1 and 13. So if you can check any of these 3 boxes, you're going to put a 1 in this line 13. So no reduction in employees or average paid hours. If you've not reduced the number of employees or the average paid hours of your employees from January through your covered period. If your FTE reduction in safe harbor 1, which we've gone over this like a million times, it's the same thing. If you can't get back up to business as usual, you can count that here as well. I don't know why, if you click this box, why you would ever do this form. I would do the easy form if you had clicked that box. And the other one is if you satisfy FTE reduction safe harbor 2, which we've done before on worksheet schedule A. And then this is, I mean, everything else is exactly the same. The only things that have changed is this is now 60% instead of the 75. So that's a major change. And then let's see. Another one, hold on. Line 9, this one right here, line 9. So there's a max on line 9. So it says, let me find it. This is the one that kind of scared me there for a minute when I'd already updated and I thought, oh, I did something wrong. But what it says now on line 9, for borrowers using 24-week covered period, this amount is capped at $20,833, which is 2.5 months equivalency of $100,000 per year for each individual, or 2.5 month equivalent of their applicable compensation in 2019, whichever is lower. So you're maxed out there at $20,833 if you're using 24-week, and it's $15,385 if you're using 8 weeks. So that's kind of a change. But that's basically.
Well, Renee, if we can just stay there for 1 second, because we've gotten several questions still similar to that regarding people making over 100,000. So if they're, let's address what to do if you've got your folks that make over 100,000, and then the secondary question to that is, are they eligible for the easy form?
Yes. So if you have employees that make over 100,000 on this sheet, where you're calculating your PPP Schedule A on sheet 2, your max that you can put there for that employee is 46,000. So you can only count up to 100,000. That's if you're using the 24 weeks. If you're not using the 24 weeks, the max number here can only be 15,385. So that's how you count them. So you can use this form or you can use the easy form, either one. It doesn't matter. You know, what it comes down to is the easy form if you're eligible to click any of those boxes.
Yeah. It's
awesome.
The clarification is on the easy form. It's not, do you have anyone that makes over 100,000? That's not the question. The question is, have you paid anyone more than the equivalent of $100,000 in your application for PPP? It's not saying, did you pay somebody above that? You just can't include the amount that you paid. All you can do is cap it at the 46,000, what, 46,154 or 15,385 if you're using 8 weeks or 2. So you just got to cap it. So the amount of money that they made, that you paid them over that amount, you just can't use that in this PPP application. That's one of the reasons why now that we're going to a 24 weeks, you're able to spread out those payments over more time period, because those above $100,000 a year persons were capped on the amount of money that you could apply for forgiveness on. But now that you're spreading out that 2.5 months worth of payroll across 24 weeks, it's a lot easier for you to hit that. And now you only have to hit 60% versus 70% of your PPP loan amount has to be payroll costs.
Got it. I think that's going to help a lot of people. So thank you, guys. Well, anything else, Renee, before we jump into questions?
No, let's jump in.
Okay. Actually, similar to what you just addressed, and I know you answered this earlier, Renee, but if we'll go over this again, for an employee making over 100,000, do you also have to prorate the amount of employer-sponsored retirement and medical?
No, so it simply states the salary cannot exceed $100,000. It does not say salary plus benefits plus retirement cannot exceed. It says salary cannot exceed $100,000. So the benefits and the retirement benefit is separate from that $100,000 cap.
The caveat I want to place on that is for church that's paying out a housing allowance, you should take their salary amount plus their housing allowance cannot go over 100. Their benefits can take them over 100, but the salary plus the housing allowance needs to be capped at the 46,000 or the 15,000, whatever your covered period is, 8 weeks or 24 weeks.
That's super helpful because a lot of the folks watching are probably representing pastors and churches. All right, we've probably gone over this, and forgive me guys, my questions are out of order. But back to people are asking about if they hit it at 10 weeks, can they figure out their FTE then? So let me ask the question. Has SBA clarified if you can choose a cutoff point other than 8 weeks or 24 weeks? For example, if we meet our loan forgiveness at 10 weeks, can we figure out FTE at 10 weeks? Rene?
I have not heard whether you can do that or not. Well, that probably would have been a good question to ask, I guess. But what I have heard is that there are a couple of individuals that have sent me a direct message that said their lender is allowing them to apply for forgiveness at 11 weeks. But the only reason they're being allowed to do that is because they're going to meet 100% forgiveness. Right. And they don't need to wait till 12/31. So they're being allowed to do it. But that's where this EZ form comes in too. Super, if you're meeting at 100% forgiveness and you've been affected, the EZ form's the route to go.
Yeah, and so just to add on, I totally agree with what Renee's saying. I would just say, if you're using the EZ form, okay, which means you're going to get 100% forgiveness, which means that if there's no reason why you have to wait until the end of the covered period, because you don't have to do a calculation on FTE. Right. So what I would do is contact your lender, say, I'm going to use the EZ form. Because I'm unable to come back to full business activity, or you didn't cut anybody, you didn't have any reduction in your FTE. So your FTE is the exact same. That both those two say that you can use the EZ form, then I would say don't wait. Now the lender has the ability to say, no, you have to wait. But I'm telling you, I would go to your lender and say, and plead your case to them. Now they get to make that decision. And remember, there's 6,000 lenders that are participating in this. So there's a lot of different answers that are going to be given.
That's great. Rene, let's go over the FTE reduction exceptions one more time, because we've gotten a lot of folks that have written in about their specific situation. So rather than going one by one through them, because they're all a bit confusing, if we can talk through the FTE reduction exceptions, I think that will help a lot of people who are like, well, this person left before this time and that time, and et cetera.
So Mark kind of went over this a little bit when he spoke about the FTE reduction exceptions, but the main ones are that you have offered to rehire someone and that individual didn't want to come back, or you were unable to hire similar qualified employee to replace them by 12/31. That's an FTE exception. If you made a good faith written offer to restore any reduction in hours at the same salary or wages during the covered period to the employee, and the employee rejected the offer, once again, that's an FTE reduction exception that you can count. Anybody that was fired for cause, this is a question I've gotten several times. If it is fired for cause and you can document that, which we say all the time, documentation. Voluntary resigned, which means you probably need a letter from them that states that they voluntarily resigned as your proof. Or voluntary requested or received reduction in their hours. Those all can be counted as FTE exceptions, reduction exceptions. So those are the three main exceptions. And I would add exceptions.
Also, we know this previously, that if you've asked them to come back to work and offered them to come back to work and they have refused, and they've said they're going to stay on unemployment, you need an email back and forth between you and that employee, but that would also not count against you on your FTE calculation, that you offered someone to come back to work and they said no.
Awesome. And then this question we got before today's, but I feel like we addressed this, but just to confirm, regarding the new FTE reduction safe harbor, which is also a requirement to use the EZ loan forgiveness form, what CDC guidance qualifies as documentation to support the certification? I feel like we've gone over that a couple times that Mark addressed. Is there anything that we need to add to that?
Yeah, so CDC guidelines at some point in time during the month of April were that you couldn't gather more than 10 people.
Yeah.
And so I would just cut and paste one of those guidance that came out from the CDC and put that in your file and be done. If you're a church or if you're a Christian school, if you're a nonprofit, you're going to need to come up with some specific reason why. Maybe it was travel, and a lot of nonprofits have international requirements on travel that were cut off. So you know those situations a lot better than I do. So just take your current, what your situation was before February 15th. And if you haven't been able to get back to that level because of CDC guidelines, then you have the case to make to be able to use the EZ form.
And I just want to clarify, Sutton is not being paid to promote the EZ form. He just loves it.
No, I just love it because I've been working on this for too dadgum long. And now they finally get it right and give us something that is super easy and that makes forgiveness of a ton of loans out there just because of this one change in this guideline. And I think it's going to be huge to a lot of people. And there was a lot of people that were really concerned on the FTE calculation. They were struggling trying to get back up to that 100% and realizing that they were going to end up with some kind of loan, and they really didn't want that. And so I'm fired up that there's a whole bunch of Christian organizations that are going to basically not have a loan. So that's why I'm excited. Yeah.
That's awesome. We've actually gotten this question at least twice since we started the webinar, which is, are copier leases covered? And I think we covered that in a previous webinar, but I mean, it looks like maybe that's a point of contention between Rene and Sutton.
Go ahead, Rene. Rene will answer this one.
We kind of have a difference of opinions, but that's okay. My opinion counts.
Yeah, because I'm using the easy form, so it doesn't matter.
He's using the easy form. So it does state in here, covered rent obligations, business rent or lease payments. I listened on the SBA webinar that Tim and Mark were doing, and the question was asked about my copier lease, and he said yes. And he referred right back to this B, 2B, covered rent obligations, business rent or lease payments pursuant to lease agreements for real or personal property in force before February 15th, 2020. So I say yes.
Yeah. And if you have to sign something, go with what Rene says. Don't go with what I say. So just awesome. A bit of advice.
Well, I think that goes back to what you guys have been saying, which is just show your work, document a reason why you made that choice and put that with all your paperwork. So, okay. Somebody was a little bit confused by Mark's answer as it related to payroll. Did he say payroll had to be earned and paid in the same period? We received our PPP funds on May 1st and paid payroll on May 5th for pay ending April 30th. Can the May 5th payment be used for PPP calculation? So maybe you just want to cover the paid versus earned one more time.
Okay. So payroll costs are considered paid on the day that paychecks are distributed or the ACH credit transaction occurs. So that's paid. It doesn't say a period or when it was paid. It says that it was paid. So anything that's paid within your covered period. And then it says payroll costs are considered incurred on the day that the employee's pay is earned. So it's paid and or earned during your covered period. So if you paid, for instance, we paid a payroll on April 15th, we received our funds on the 8th, I lie. So April 8th, we received our funds. We had a payroll on the 15th. It covered the 1st through the 15th, but I counted the entire payroll because it was paid within that covered period.
Mm-hmm. So to answer her question, what she paid on the 5th, that means that gets included in her payroll cost for the PPP loan.
That's great. Okay, so still
4 minutes. You got 4 minutes.
Here we go. Still some questions around, a lot of people are hitting their 8 weeks of their covered period. How long do they have to complete and submit the forgiveness application?
I would say 60 days from June 30th. June 30th is the last date for, well, now it's 12/31. So that's completely changed. So I would say talk to their lender and ask their lender when they want that information. But I would say at least by 60 days, the lender is going to want to see that. That's enough time to gather up everything, calculate it correctly, have your backup with you. But I would say ask your lender. That's the best thing to do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let me go to y'all keep on talking on the next one because I think I've got it on my slides and I just want to make sure before I say it. Go ahead.
Yeah. How many slides are you at now, Sutton?
Well, I deleted some because we've gotten better. 96.
Hey, that's less than 100. That's good.
By the way, that's not easy.
No. Let's see, Renee. So here's some specific questions. I'm trying to look for the questions behind the questions. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see. We had no reduction in our hourly wage, but some employees chose to work less hours, thus a reduction in average paid hour. We covered this on the last webinar, the hours versus amount. We might,
but also they chose to work lesser hours to help out their business, and so therefore that's included in the FTE exception as well, because it states if they voluntarily reduce their hours, that's included as an FTE exception.
That's great. That's good to know. Okay, and it says we might be able to use a safe harbor because school was closed, no substitute teachers unless janitorial staff needed, etc. Okay,
right.
Great. Let's see.
Okay, so slide 70. This is the stuff that came out in the Flexibility Act. The last point of the Flexibility Act was the second to last, point 6. It's talking about deferral of the payments of principal and interest. And then the second part, or if the borrower does not apply for loan forgiveness 10 months after the end of the borrower's loan forgiveness covered period. So at the end of your covered period, whether it be an 8-week or a 24-week period, you'll have 10 months to apply for forgiveness, or it will convert into a loan automatically.
That's super helpful. Slide 70, ladies and gentlemen.
Come on.
All right. One question. Do you think there will be any more changes?
I'll never say never.
No, because we're about to, we at Vanderbloemen, we're about to use this easy form and be done. So,
awesome.
I mean, I'll just tell you guys, like, if you can, and if you're in, and maybe you had to do, like we had to do, go from an 8-week to a 24-week to get all your payroll in, and you're at, maybe week 12, week 13, fill out that easy form and take it to your lender and say, hey, I want to apply for full forgiveness using the easy form, and see if you can't get her done. That's what I think a lot of people will now be able to do. They're going to be at week 14, week 17, something like that. And you're going to be able to use the easy form because you were hurt by CDC guidelines or whatever. And I would say do your application and get it in. To be honest with you, it keeps on getting better. Every single change that's happening. They're getting more and more generous with the loan. Turning into a grant. So I think actually time is on our side, but I would get it in and get it done so that there's no more tweaks or whatever like that you could do. So
awesome.
That'd be my suggestion.
So this might be our last time together, guys, talking about
That's
PPP.
it. This is it.
That's it. Well, for all of you who've joined in, even today we had almost 400 people watching us together earlier. And so for all of you that have walked with us through this PPP journey, we're really grateful. And we're here to serve you at Vanderbloemen. What we usually do, we kind of fell into the PPP because Sutton was trying to figure it out for ourselves. And Rene and Sutton have, just been such a blessing to our team at Vanderbloemen, and then have poured that back into helping all of you guys. But what we usually focus on is hiring and succession planning. And we'd be glad to serve you in any way we can. So you can always reach out and talk to us about PPP or hiring or succession planning. We'd be glad to help. Well, Rene and Sutton, thank you so much. And
Thanks,
don't
everybody.
forget, you can download Sutton slides at churchcovid19.com or schoolcovid19.com. See you later.